one main thing I let my coaches know that if they accept it, you better expect it. So if they're accepting half effort in a drill on Friday night or come team time, you better expect to lose because you can't change overnight.
Right.
These kids are 14 to 18-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to accept the fact that, hey, you're mediocre performance and you're not taking your study habits, you're not training hard and all that yada, 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 then you better expect to get those results that you're training for.
We're back. Hope everybody's been enjoying this so far. And, Coach, I brought something up right before the break. It's something that I kind of want. I feel like we need to put this to bed, or I want to learn how to do this, and I want you to teach me because it sounded real powerful. So I've got Chad Griffin on the phone, and Hart County's head coach. We had him on last week. Wonderful coach, wonderful guest. But I wanted to learn. Chad made a statement last week that I need you all to clear up or teach me how to do this. So last week, I think you said, Chad, it was about game year 3, maybe.
Year two, week 2.
Week 2 of year 2. And he literally made this statement. I'm going to give you what he said. He said, guys, LJ stole my soul. Stole our souls. All right? So what I want to do is figure out what does that feel like, or did you even know you did this to him? And then I want to know, how do I do that?
Well, as coaches, and I think LJ can relate, although I say he stole more souls than been taken from him. I want to know, LJ, man, what you got hanging on you got him in a jar on a mantle or what? No, in reality, Coach, what happened that year was, and I told you guys this, especially in a fragile program, there's those defining moments where you either make it or you don't, and we got beat by a really good Allen County Scottsville team, and LJ and them weren't bad, but it wasn't one of his best teams he's had since he's been there. But we thought it was a competitive game, and they came down to our place. I think it was 13-12 at halftime. I don't know the score. We were in the ball game, and they came out in the second half and just took it to us. And what I mean by he stole our soul was he didn't do anything wrong. LJ, their kids played first class and they just came out there. And
Absolutely.
And that was the make or break it. If we don't get beat that game, we may go on to win 5 games that year. But because that happened, just stuff starts falling apart. People start second guessing things, and but I'll never forget it. And I use that phrase, and my coach staff and I have spoken about that before. That was a turning point in that season. I know it was just week 2, but for a fragile program who doesn't have real good leadership, who hasn't been a real strong program, when you get beat 42-12 or something by a team that you think you can play with, it really makes you think, man, where we stand.
So that's what it means to have your soul stolen. So did you know you had this kind of power? Because it feels like a supernatural theological issue that we should be discussing and grab out perhaps 1 Peter or 2 Peter. But instead, we're talking to 2 head football coaches of great programs. Did you know you had the power to steal somebody's soul, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on both sides of the table, just like Coach is saying, where you think you got a chance at a game, and all of a sudden you get blown out, and then you feel like, where do we start back? You got to start back from day one, and what are we doing with our lives as a football coach? And then you've been on the other side where, hey, things are about to start rolling, and they usually do. So you always want to be on that other side of the pillow where it's it's the greener side. But like Coach said, it's easy to get your soul stole or steal somebody's soul on a Friday night or Kentucky.
I remember, Kyle, what you're talking about is the very next season. When we had the 17 seniors, my 3rd year there, we expect to be better, but we just come off a 2-win season. Who knew? And we played a really, really good stinking Taylor County team there at the Campbellsville Bowl, and they beat us like a drum. I think they put 50. We couldn't do anything right. We didn't snap the ball right. We didn't deserve to be on the field with them. So once again, I'm sitting there thinking, man, and here comes LJ and them. And if I'm not mistaken, LJ, I could be wrong. I don't know how many games y'all won in 2018, but I know it was a down year for y'all. But if you remember that game, it was you were up 12-6 right before halftime, and we went on to score, and I think we went up 13-12, or it may have been tied at halftime, 12-12. And then we came out, returned the kickoff, and we went on to win that game. And I say this, and I don't know how many games they won in 2018, but Coach Marcus Sebo, you guys may not know, but Marcus Coward, he always said, Coach, that could have been another game that if we would have lost that game as a program, that would have set us back again.
Yeah.
And luckily, we went on to win that game. I think it helped propel us just because we got over that hump. You know what I mean?
So what did that do to your soul, Coach, when you lost to Hart County?
He stole ours that year because I think we beat Barron County.
Well, there you go,
So
Chad.
we were, you know,
You feel better now?
It was good. So we was up at halftime thinking we was gonna get any better. Then you get beat the second half, and all of a sudden you're 1-1, thinking you should have been 2-0, and all of a sudden you question what you done. And so yeah, it's always good to be on that one side. But yeah, I know what Coach is talking about for sure.
Well, Coach, we wanted to make sure and clear that up. I can't wait to have you back on. Thank you so much for calling in.
We're talking to a first class. So I told you guys
Absolutely.
LJ takes guys, man, that are, and he's normally not the most talented team, but they play with, he made it tough. They're Metcalf, man. When you play Metcalf, you know you play football.
Absolutely.
He does a good job. So I hope you guys have a good talk, and everybody's listening. Hey, listen in. You can learn some stuff from there. But I appreciate you guys.
Good to hear from you,
Thanks, Coach.
Good to hear from
Thanks
you.
for you guys.
Well, we got that cleared up. It turns out it wasn't extremely theological, Brian. You know, I was thinking maybe the Gospel of John. I mean, you could have dealt with man must be born again, once of water and once of the flesh. But I was dealing with a soul issue. But I just found that terribly interesting. And I know now. Are you all going to have an opportunity to meet in the near future to see? Now that we're
one, the last couple of years, we couldn't work out our schedules right because everybody's got to play their rival, and everybody wants a couple wins on their schedule. And of course, coaches got that thing rolling over there, and we just couldn't get weeks aligned. So it's kind of tough right now. Finding games, we're going to do a lot of traveling this year. We did the year before that as well because nobody wants to get beat by Metcalf County. That's for sure.
So are you're finding it harder to get games?
Oh yeah, we're
like a non-conference game now.
I think, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of coaches out there. I know there's several coaches in my same predicament that, you know, the bigger, you know, the 3A, 4A, 5A schools don't want to get beat by 1A, 2A schools.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes you look bad. So it's hard to get those schedules, especially if those big schools don't think they're going to be very good in a couple of years. They don't want to play us. They want to play another, you know, 1 or 2A school. And I don't know why people don't want to play us because we bring, you know, a huge crowd.
Y'all have a great following.
We're going to have a huge crowd. It's always going to be a good atmosphere. And that's what Friday nights are about. And that's what you try to convince some of these coaches that it's about. But some of them just care more about wins and losses.
Yeah. So, okay, so last year you go 10-0. 10-0. At what point during the season do you start thinking, hey, we got a shot here at running this thing? We got a shot at finishing this thing. What's the pressure do when you're trying to break down now on huddle, we'll call it breaking down film. When you're trying to prepare for your opponent, what is that pressure like after, say, week 4? When does that start, and how did that?
I'll be honest, I never did feel it, and I kept trying to instill in the
Not
boys.
a little bit.
To keep it 1-0, and a couple of days we knew we were going to put the clock on first half. A couple teams that wasn't very good, and the kids knew it. I knew it. Coaches knew it, and I wasn't going to let them go through the motions. And and a couple of mottos during the week. I come up with a motto, and we'll go over it on Monday. And one of them this year was, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Quit worrying about what your mama and daddy says. You worry about what I'm going to tell you. Okay? If I tell you you're good, you're good. Right now, we're not good. We're not where we should be. We got a lot more potential. Quit drinking the Kool-Aid. If y'all want to go where this thing ought to go, then don't drink the Kool-Aid. Be hungry."
Right.
And we had a good group of kids that, you know, took after that. They didn't take any team lightly. They knew, especially those older guys, when you was playing a team that knew we was going to put the clock, they better get their stats in. And at halftime, I didn't care if the score was 35-0. If the clock's on you, I'm taking the starters out. I don't care how much time they got in. I'm going to put my younger guys in. It's just the whole point of a running clock.
Right.
So I might give you one possession on defense and offense, but if it's too much time being taken off the clock on, say, defense, you ain't playing offense.
Right.
You're on JV. So my kids knew it, so they were hungry to get out there and get their TFLs, get their tackles, get their yards, get their catches, and pancakes, because we kept up pancakes this year and made it real fun for our linemen, you know, to get some kind of award for and getting shout out for like that. So it made them hungry to you know, play some of those bad teams. So and that don't come every year. It comes with that special group, and that group been coming a long way. Their freshman year they went 0-10. You know, lost 6-7 games by a touchdown or less.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was one of them, just like you
But
said.
you had lived through that
exactly
before in
Like
college.
You're coming up. How do we get these kids motivated after
Mhm.
this heartbreaking loss in overtime? Another heartbreaking loss in overtime. How you keep coming back and picking these kids' souls up that are freshmen that are
Right.
playing every day, and then they stuck with it, and there they are. They won 3 seasons in a row, two playoff district champs, and 1 regular season district champ in
Mhm.
3 years. So hard work pays off. Is basically what we try to roll
Absolutely.
with. So.
Absolutely. And even when we hear from Coach Griffin at Hart County, he's, kind of I feel like if you could put a stamp on his program based on the way I understood or perceived his philosophy, it would basically the bedrock, the foundation would be toughness.
Mm-hmm. You got to be.
He wants his kid to be tough and to play tough on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. So if you could put a stamp on your program, I've always viewed your team, and I've said this a couple of times during the show, is that you guys are tough from whistle to whistle. Whether you're up by 40 or down by 40, those kids will absolutely get after you. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've always felt about Metcalf. But I'd like to hear from you. What do you think would be that bedrock or that?
The number one thing we try to preach on is discipline. We feel like if we can instill in you day one that you're going to go hard in the weight room and get 2 extra reps, go 2 extra yards on a sprint in the winter months. In the summer months, we're going to do the same. Instead of 2 yards, we're going to go 5 yards. We're going to get you key in your key and discipline. And if you mess up, you're going to get some kind of a punishment for it, and just instilling some discipline that it don't matter who your opponent is, whether they're the best team in the state or the worst team in the state, you're going to be disciplined if you want a chance to win. And well, we've done a pretty good job of that, especially my assistant coaches. One main thing I let my coaches know that if they accept it, you better expect it. So if they're accepting half effort in a drill on Friday night or come team time, you better expect to lose because you can't change overnight. Right. These kids are 14 to 18-year-old kids. Yeah. And so if you're going to accept the fact that, hey, you're mediocre performance and you're not taking your study habits, you're not training hard and all that, yada, 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 then you better expect to get those results that you're training for. It's like some people call it, if you got $1 work ethic, you shouldn't be expecting $1 million paycheck.
Right.
So, and that's what we try to do with that discipline. Is just instill it in them day one. And then the next thing we try to do is competitiveness. And I try to make everything in my program competitive. And sometimes I'll get out there with the kids. And I think it's one thing that the kids respond well to. Some days I'll just come in and start, headbutting a couple kids. Well, I mean, I usually don't do that, but I'm up jumping around. I'll throw a dumbbell across the room or something like that. Sometimes because those kids are, 15, 16 years old, and football's the last thing on their mind after, it's 95 degrees after a long day of school, and we aren't about to have a 3-hour practice. You got to find something to light a flame in them to make it fun and make it entertainment. And me and myself and my coaches have done a good job of finding some little spark to get practice going or getting them, in tune. And there's a lot of different ways we've done it. And some days, like you said, you got to get in their face and yell. And other days, they can just tell by the look on my face that this ain't gonna cut it. This ain't work out there. Right. So it's done works for us, and we try to instill that, as young as we can. Sometimes it's as an 8th grader, and sometimes it's first year. We had 2 guys that started last year that come out for their second year ever playing football. So we got different timetables, and just like you said, people respond to being yelled at, being hugged on, and you just got to find that happy medium what they want and roll up from there. But discipline is the number one thing that drives our program.
Yeah, excellent. I think this whole world needs more discipline.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing.
It amazes me where our culture has devolved into because of a lack of any sort of moral clarity and any level of a discipline.
Everybody looking for a shortcut.
Yeah.
And football, you can't get it. If you want the best body, you can't get it by shortcuts. It'll take some hard work.
Right.
Take a little patience.
So I mentioned earlier I've been to several great high school football games that I'll never forget. And one of those was when I went to Greene County to watch your father coach, and you were probably there. You had to have been.
I'm sure I was.
And they were going up there to play Greene County, which was a district game, right? And I think it was the district championship. It was a district game.
Mhm.
But at this time, it was very late in the season, and both teams were undefeated. So I'm not sure what year that would have been, but both teams were undefeated. Your dad's coaching, and I go down there, and of course, our stadium's kind of down in a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of on a hill, but it feels like you go down in a bowl.
It's a good little atmosphere.
Really loud,
Mhm.
lots of grass, a lot of people. So I get there, and I got there 15 minutes early, which
Mhm.
is fine for any typical
Right.
high school game.
Yeah.
And but on the drive, I go all the way up to the end, back through Sulphurwell, out Highway 70, got to the end, made a
Mhm.
left on 68.
Mm-hmm.
I get to Highway 70 and I turn left. Every tree, it felt like,
Had a sign on.
had a sign on it all the way to Greene County.
Yeah.
And some of them was hating on the Hornets and some of them was loving on them. And I'm telling you, it was all the way down through it. And I'm just watching this and I'm thinking, how many fights started out here on the side of the blacktop?
There was a few.
So I finally get there. I had to park. I think I parked in Indiana.
Yeah.
And I'm like 15 minutes early, high school football game, not during the playoffs. It's but they're both undefeated, so I'm walking up through there. Well, there are people everywhere, stacked up on that fence at the top of the hill at Greene County.
Yep.
Greene County's got a gorgeous field now, and
Yep.
nice new facility. So we finally get there, and I make it down. And I had to stand on the track. There was a seat. You couldn't sit on the hill.
Yep.
And I stood on the track and had to stand on my tippy toes. I was at the edge of the track, and I stood on my tippy toes to be able to watch football.
Yep.
It was an amazing small town, small community, high school football setting.
Yeah, we had another one of those at Greene County this year.
It was absolutely amazing.
Oh,
That
yes.
I look at that as the heartbeat of America.
For
That's
the-
where
better than Friday
that's where
night.
things are right.
That's
you
right.
know.
That's right.
So while I'm doing this, I'm standing up there and I'm watching, and I can see Larry and Freddie, and I know Freddie better than I know your father. I know your father's wonderful coach, obviously, goes without saying. But Freddie had the playbook.
Uh-huh.
Your dad didn't have one.
Right.
Or let me back up. I did not see your dad carrying a playbook.
No, he don't carry nothing.
Okay. So I know I'm right so far.
Yeah.
So Freddie has this playbook. And I look over at this thing. I can't remember what year this is, but I can't prove this, but it looked like a piece of paper about like that right there, just a couple sheets of notebook paper, spiral, loose leaf. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
That he just had the whole playbook was written,
Yep.
and it could have been defensive. I don't know.
No, his offense.
But there wasn't a lot of stuff there.
Nope.
And he just wadded up and crammed it in his pocket, and they'd just start calling and playing. And every now and then he'd get mad, something wouldn't go their way, and they'd grab that thing out and like, get that thing out there, and he'd put it back in his pocket. And I thought, look at this team. And they wound up. It was Will Wharf's. I don't know how far that team.
They made it to the third round too at the playoffs. So final eight, yeah.
And had a playbook like this right here.
Well, actually, no, they made it to the final four because they got beat before Campbell. Antonio Andrews won Mr. Football that year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Fort Campbell had that string of really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and got in trouble over some of that, I think.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. So they had, that was the playbook.
That was always his. It was usually on a vanilla folder, and he usually
is that what it was?
And he usually cut it in half. That way, it was sturdy enough to up will hold rain and keeping his back pocket.
Well, you make sure and tell Freddie if he don't get to see this video. You tell him that's something that's always. But
he would kill me because he would handwrite every single thing.
Oh, it was on there
every Friday.
It just wasn't.
It wasn't the same one. He had to do it every Friday. I was like, why not just type it out and just delete what you don't want? And he just didn't understand that. It's like,
it was hand drawn.
Oh yeah, handwritten.
So I'm not trying to take away from the fact of how important it was. I'm just saying, when I look at most high school and even middle school playbooks nowadays, they're 20 stacks deep.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, when are you ever going to get into all this?
Usually,
So I bring that up to say, okay, if everything you're about is toughness, discipline, hard work, competitiveness, we're going to compete and we're going to get the level best out of everybody on this team, and we will not settle for any less than that. And that's a coach's obligation. And the parents should appreciate that that's what you're trying to get out of their child, because is that not going to help them when they try to get through that final, when they try to get through that trade school, when they try to get through that school and become a tradesman or a craftsman, when it's 100 degrees outside and they got to push through when mama's sick and the baby's sick and daddy's got to toe the line,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's something that's one of the reason that I want to do this show, is to show the power and the influence that coaches have.
Oh yeah.
So with that, if the concept and the bedrock of the team is going to be toughness, or in your case, competitiveness and energy and drive and pushing forward, and your kids are always tough, I mean tough, you don't need a big playbook, do you?
Oh no. Well, I'll be honest. We put in play today, and it's 4 words: Hornet right, ISO right. And everybody got a
That's
job to
straight
do.
out of 1968, isn't it?
And we probably run it 35% of the time last year. That's all you need. As long as you know how to execute it. We got about 4 runs we run consistently and about 4 passes, and they all come out about 7 different formations. We do it, try to do it as well as we can, and line up, see if you can stop it.
Brian, for the people who don't understand this, and they won't, okay? But for the people who don't, that's what we're trying to do here. What LJ is saying, and what I've always been convicted about football, any sport for that matter, if you have that discipline, if you have that drive, if you have that competitiveness where the kids are literally competing to just make a good block. That's what you call it, a pancake. I would too. It's making a block. They get an award for making a block, because every game's won right up there with them front 5.
Oh yeah.
Or they're lost up there too. But those kids are so critical. That doesn't mean that everybody else isn't equally critical. Everybody is. But my hat is off to you. And because that toughness and that discipline, you don't have to have all these bells and whistles and fluff.
No.
In life, first down in life, if you have that discipline and drive and competitiveness and
You probably be all right.
and will to do the small things right, to do the little things right. And when you get 3 little things right, try the 4th one, right? And
Might need you have to come talk to my kids sometimes, because sometimes it goes in one ear out the other.
but I'm proud of, but that's what you've done.
We try to do that, and we try to do it and relate to it real life, that everything ain't gonna be, gravy, and we try to paint pictures for them. Hey, you're on the way to work, you're late for your rent or your mortgage, you're going to work, you got a flat tire. What are you gonna do? You gonna call them to work? Because I hate excuses. Kids call me today, Coach, I can't come, I'm sick. Well, how sick? I mean, can you still walk? Can you still breathe? Can you still move? Or are you on your deathbed? Well, I can still do all that stuff. I was like, all right, we'll get you better practice, because we can find something for you to do.
Right.
So, because in the real world, if you don't work, you don't get a paycheck. On the football field, if you don't practice, you don't get wins. So we try to relate all we can to the real world and to the real world aspects that at one point or another, you're going to have to overcome some adversity. You better know how to handle it, because either you're going to fail as a husband, you're going to fail as a father, you're going to fail as a a brother, a son, whatever it may be. And that's what we try to do. We won't try to make them, when they come to me, they're a little bitty boy. When they leave, we want them to be a grown man they can take on life. And
absolutely,
we try to do that. So, not just the X's and O's with me. We try to teach a little bit, because ain't nothing sorrier to me than somebody that lives off the government.
I hear you.
Don't have a job, or just does.
Well, if you've got competitiveness, hard work, discipline, if that's your motto, and you think about the hours these kids put into football, and they're always around at Coach LJ, they're around Coach Harbison, they're around the other coach. And if that's drilled into them, and then they get to turn around and watch and see it work.
Oh, yeah.
This is something else that's interesting to me on that thread. Even when you have those down years, okay, everybody's going to have those. When you have those down years, if the kids are still putting in their best effort, even in the down years, and they still make their block, whatever it is, they might get beat, may not win on the school board. That, to me, that is still just as big to a victory to that 15, 16, 17-year-old kid as going out there and beating that Mayfield team, in my mind, because that teaches him something that I don't have any other way to teach that.
Right.
Other than you put in the work and look at what you just did.
Exactly.
Your kid never made it out of the box.
And that's one of the, I think, the pleasures of coaching is to see a kid that says that you can't do it. And, we don't have the confidence or the whatever it may be that he didn't think he had before. And then all of a sudden you see him train and work his butt off. And all of a sudden you see him accomplish something. It's pretty cool to see it because he didn't think he could do it at first. And
right.
And that's one thing I try to not let my kids say is I can't stand that word.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll find some way. I mean, we might
I
have to
believe
go
that
around
about you.
we might go around a couple more obstacles.
I believe that about
I can't stand that. And that's the first thing that's written on my chalkboard, or whatever you want to call it, in the weight room is no, I can't. So hey, you better not say that word around me. It's
right.
Gonna be a long day for you.
Well, a couple more things, LJ. We've talked about souls quite a bit tonight. We've actually had to call Plum to Hart County to figure out how to deal with souls. So, off camera, you and I were talking, you and I and Brian, Pix Designs, by the way, you got to check him out. Great stuff.
Does a really good job.
Great stuff. We were talking off camera. There's no secret to the fact that faith is extremely important to me. It's important to you and your family and your heritage, your lineage, and your county. I mean, there's a church on every road in Metcalfe County.
Yeah.
Same as there's one on every road in Barron County. You told me that I think you said there was two kids on your team that surrendered their souls to Jesus this year, and they were saved. And so obviously it goes without saying that, and thank God for that.
Right.
So obviously faith is a very important thing to your overall program. You try to instill that.
For sure. I started it second year I was there. My pastor at Edmonton Baptist Church in Edmonton, Brother Steve Scholler. He was my preacher growing up, my youth pastor, and he was, assistant coach on our middle school team there when I was playing. And then when I come back, I offered him our filming job and an FCA job to be our chaplain per se, and whatever you want to call it. And we just do it every Thursday night during the season. The boys will eat their pregame meal or the night before game meal, and Brother Steve comes and brings a message, and there's those kids stay glued to him just like they would me, and that's what we want. I mean, some of them just learn some tales out of it. Other ones, get saved, like we said. And last year we had 2, and you can feel it in the room when it's happening. I mean, it's just like a church when you can feel it moving through people. But you can, as soon as it's over, they call me or Brother Steve over to the side and want to know more about how you become saved and all that stuff, and that's kind of cool to see.
Absolutely, amen.
So it's kind of cool to see when he does it. And Brother Steve does a phenomenal job with our kids. Getting to know them on the sidelines, and like I said, he films our practices and our games, and he's a big asset to our football team. And not only me, but my brother, he does a good job. I mean, he works out to preachers preaching. I mean, who have you ever seen somebody listen to a podcast on preaching to work out to? Which is kind of weird, but he does that, and he don't even put headphones in. He just plays it on his loudspeaker in the gym, and kids are coming in and
some
out.
Guys are Skittles, and some guys are
and the kids are like, "Coach, what are you listening to?" And he'll tell them as he's working out. And they'll listen to a little bit of it, but we try to do things, and as much as cleaning your locker the right way, you better have your cleats and your shoes at the bottom and your helmet hanging up on one side and your shoulder pads, having that right, picking up after yourself to, doing things right on the football field. And then after you leave, if you got consequences with outside of school, you're going to deal with me. You got consequences in school, you're going to deal with me. And we try to be everything. We don't want it just to be about the wins and the losses. We want it to be a program. not Metcalf football. We want to be a Metcalf football
Excellent.
program. So we take pride in that, and it's long hours, and my wife don't like me getting home late, but she understands. Hey,
Mhm.
that's what I guess my calling was, and I enjoy it, and it makes me young. I feel about 21 today, so I'm missing my workout
I
today.
think
coming
I'm
to
feeling
BTS.
younger just listening to it.
I'm missing my workout coming with you guys, so tomorrow I'll even have to get a bigger one in. So football keeps you young, keeps you energized, and ain't nothing better than seeing a young man achieve something that
Mhm.
he didn't think he could do.
Right. So I guess we'll close up here because I can't tell you how much I appreciate,
I appreciate
the
it. I had fun.
opportunity to sit down with you. Can you give me just a brief look at this season? Have you looked at your schedule? Do you
Oh yeah, I mean,
Do
what do
you
you want to
have-
know? We're finishing up spring ball.
any changes to your schedule that
Yeah, we're gonna play a bunch of different faces. We got Nelson County on the schedule, Casey County, Wayne County, of course, the Dairy County and Barron County's always been on there, been kind of rival. Campbellsville will be really good. They're on the schedule. Of course, our district
they had
play.
a really good year last year? I think Casey and Campbellsville
Yeah,
both, right?
yeah. And Campbellsville returned everybody they had on their roster, so they'll be really good. And
Mhm.
he had a big problem scheduling too. But so our schedule's beefed up because a lot of people didn't want to play and whatnot and couldn't work it out. But return 4 or 5 starters on both sides of the ball. It'll be a good time. We got returning 2 running backs, turning our quarterback. We got 2 starting O linemen, 2 starting D linemen, starting linebacker, 3
Mhm.
DBs back. I mean, cupboard's not empty, but we're gonna miss some of those guys that played last year. This
Mhm.
year, we actually got Luke Meadows is gonna sign with Campbellsville in 2 weeks to play college football, and he'll make a big splash up there. I thought he was
Wow.
good enough to play somewhere else, but
Congratulations to him. Yeah.
for sure. We had 4 kids offered this year, which
Mhm.
is phenomenal. One's gonna play. A couple of them hung it up. I think the last one he's still debating, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna hang it up too. Which I
We
can't fault
encourage you
him.
not to, but
I-
to each their own.
I want them to be happy, and I want them to have no regrets and understand that if they're
Exactly.
going to pay for their school, and you're still going to go to school. But 2 of them don't even want to go to school; they just want to go straight to a craft and a job. And
Mhm.
I ain't gonna hate them for that. I just want to be productive, be
Yeah.
a productive person to society,
Yeah.
and that's what we try to do. And I have an exit meeting with every player to make sure, hey, you coming back, you playing, what we need to work on. And then those senior meetings, they get emotional because they start. It ain't football time no more. It's real world
Yeah.
time, and it kind of gets to them because we just won 12 games. Won 12. Hey man, your football career's over. You ain't time to go on.
Yeah.
What we gonna do? What colleges have you applied to? And I think out of my 10, 11 seniors, I think 4 of them cried on me. So it's kind of cool to see
Yeah.
those guys to get emotional talking about their past and their future and where they come from. So and that's something that I think also grows us at a program that I know who their parent, well, how they're brought up,
Mhm.
because a lot of them, some of them don't have both parents, some of them do, and you kind of tell by who they are. But I get to know them, and it's a closed door. Whatever happens in that room stays in rooms. I've had people tell me some stuff I wish they would have never told me, and some of those things that you dig deep about.
Yeah.
Guys that's lost their father, and we talk about it, and just get stuff off their chest that
Right.
hopefully one day, they just slowly
So
develop.
there's still a place in this world where you can go close the door with a coach and
make it.
I would feel like receive counsel. Good.
I don't call it
counsel.
cancel. I call it just like me and you. We're
Mhm.
talking about life. I want to make sure that they got something that they're going to do and go. And all 10 of those seniors have either applied for a school or a tech school or
Mhm.
going to give it a big boy job. So
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing out of all of it.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
pretty cool to see all their stories and where they come from.
And that's
get
what
all
it's
that.
all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see.
Because that's what they're going to remember forever.
Well, I don't know if they remember me, but hopefully they remember the fun we had for
Right.
sure. So
Right. So I know you said next game. Don't don't listen to the fluff and listen to the media. So this year, are you willing to say that there is perhaps a team that could get a circle around it that you're really looking forward to, or
all of them are circled. I know Green
I
County.
didn't know. I tried, Brian.
I know a lot of the kids circled that Green County game. Of course,
We got a jingle here.
last year we beat them in the regular season to win the regular season district title, and then they beat us in the second round playoffs to go on to Mayfield. And then we beat them this year at a game that you were talking about. Just like you saw my dad, it was exactly the same way. That whole hillside was covered.
Standing on the track.
The crowd was as loud as I've ever heard one, and it was just a fantastic atmosphere. We come away with that victory. So
That's a fun place to go play.
oh yeah, and I'm sure Monroe County's always a big hostile crowd because they always got that pride of what Monroe County's always had, and then that first game of the year, the kids love that because Barron County brings such a huge crowd, and we always have a good turnout for our first game. It makes for a really cool atmosphere because it'll be 4 people standing deep on the track all around our field, and of course
you all have a great. It is set up so great.
Yeah, so
because you can see.
From there's not a bad seat in the house.
Yeah.
We don't care if you put your lawn chairs out. So it'll be a phenomenal first game. Of course, Coach Muse got that thing going pretty good over there, and I know he's got over 100 players now and a lot of depth that he can pick from and choose from. So it's always good with a big school like that. So that's always exciting to build up to like that. But got some familiar foes on the schedule, but also some new ones. Wayne County's got a quarterback that's going to be a D1 prospect.
Really?
6'3", 6'4" kid that can move, make you miss, but also he can launch it 60, 70 yards. I mean, he's got a cannon on it.
Now, what class are they?
4A.
They're 4A?
We've been scrimmaging them, and he couldn't get nobody to play him, and I couldn't get nobody, so it kind of worked out that we went from scrimmaging each other the last 4 years, and now we're playing, so that'd be pretty cool. Casey County, I think he's in the same boat. Nobody would play him because he just went from winning like 2 games to winning their district in 9 or 10 games.
Had a great year.
Yeah, so we were playing, and then Nelson County, they went 8-4 for the first time in a long time. And he said
that's Bardstown.
Yeah.
The
so their coach is doing a real good job turning it around. So we're going to play, and of course Campbellsville, it will be loaded, and Adair County returns their whole team as well, so they'll be loaded. So it'll be a competitive schedule. We're looking forward to it, and those kids, just like we don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. All of them thinks they've done something. I was like, y'all didn't do nothing. That class that just graduated did something.
Good point.
Y'all ain't done nothing yet. Y'all won 0 games.
Good point.
And the kid was like, "What do you mean we played on that team?" I was like, "What position did you play? You think anybody gonna know that in the crowd? No, they don't know that. You're gonna have to make you noise this year." So we'll see what happens. The kid's been training. We got our numbers up. There's probably about 40 kids on the varsity. I got about 50 on the middle school training. So starting to build those numbers. Just getting them more intel with our football terminology and knowledge, and getting everybody on the same page. Like Coach Griff said last week, just starting from the floor up and getting everybody on the same page, and that's what we're trying to do and been doing for a long time, and it's finally paid off because those kids that just graduated, they've been with me for 7 years.
Yeah,
so they could have coached the position just as well as I could. And
excellent.
A lot of them hopefully come back and be coaches because I'm gonna be needing some in a few years.
Yeah.
But they're all phenomenal kids. So
LJ, this has been absolutely splendid.
I've had fun.
Some of the things that you have said, it just took,
Well, I hope I didn't bore you to death with my life.
No, you didn't bore us to death. No, you didn't. I mean, when I watch Navy play football, it's if there's 20 games on this weekend, I'm gonna pick Navy.
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird. I'm a weirdo.
No, I like it.
But when I watch them play football, it's because they play with such tenacity. And to hear somebody who's actually played them,
oh yeah,
I've learned something new tonight. I wondered how it felt because I don't know what it looks like.
Oh, I think my shin still got pop outs on them. To be honest with you. Sheesh.
I know that's what all the coaches, a lot of the coaches that play against, they even try to outlaw how they play. And I'm like, no,
it's football.
When you're that undersized. So it has been an absolute pleasure meeting you and getting to sit and go through what brought LJ from your family and your heritage, and you got a winning heritage and history. And now putting Metcalf on the map to where people don't want to schedule you anymore, and then turn around and looking forward to a exciting season. I mean, I look at that as a great opportunities and a great exciting season because you're going to have some new faces that people aren't used to seeing, but I bet they've heard about them. A lot of clout out there. So my hat's off to you. Thank you again, Brian, for coming and for filming for us. But LJ, we wish you all of God's best and wish you the very best for this season. that's coming up, and if there's any way that we could ever help you, then by all means, we'd love to do that. So
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Had a blast. Thank you, Brian, for film. Thank you, Todd, for the invite. I loved every bit of it. So
All right. Well, thank you very much. First Down in Life. You all remember to hit like and subscribe, and make sure you check out Pick Designs when you get a chance. And make sure you share this with your friends, with your family, and to people who you think would be interested in learning about what makes a coach a coach. And we've just met a great one tonight, and we want you to meet him too. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some valuable insights. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a rating and review. You're listening to First Down in Life.